All right, good evening, everybody. Hey, this is Rob Mazak. I am a psychic medium, and I do a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different topics, a lot of different ideas. Talk about just about anything, and I will talk about anything. And I don't do any scripting. I don't do anything that is pre-planned or written out. Periodically, I will read something off the internet or read something that's written down just to prove a point when it's not necessarily my idea. However, we're going to just simply start with an idea and we're going to let it roll and let's see where it all takes us. And what I wanted to talk about tonight was manifesting. And I'm not entirely sure in which direction this conversation is going to go. But it seems like there are many people out there, at least at surface level, that seem to be tremendously good at manifesting things. And there's some that just don't seem to be able to get anywhere with life or do anything that's meaningful to them or in line with the goals or the desires that they would like to have. And so I don't know what the real difference is. So I want to talk about some of those things. There's a lot of good ideas out there about it and a lot of different ways of approaching it. And I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. I really don't. I think it works different for everybody. But I think there's some general ideas that work well, some that don't. But to be honest, I would say I would start this conversation more with the fact that we all manifest every second of our day. I do believe that we create our lives as we go along. And yes, there are things that happen to us and around us that are not necessarily something we create, or at least seemingly. Like if you look at the world in general, it is just a hot mess. Pagers blowing up all over the place and walkie-talkies, and you get my point. It's just insanity out there, and it would be hard to imagine, at least for me, that I'm creating this entire thing for my own experience. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'll tell you what, if I'm coming up with that, I need to take a serious deep dive look into my subconscious, because that's not really what I desire. At least I don't believe so. But anyway, let's get back on the topic of manifestation. I was sent a video today by a friend of mine, and it was a talk by Alan Watts. And Alan Watts was a very articulate and very impressive philosopher of metaphysical, primarily, and spiritual, and just looked at the world in such a different way. And he talked about manifestation as being something that is not something that's really external to us. And he was talking about asking the universe for what we want, or how to ask properly. And I think some of the key things that he said makes a lot of sense, because I've experienced this in my own practice, in my own life, and with my own clients and stuff, is that the universe is not necessarily something that is separate from us, like something that's out there. Yes, if the space and other planets and other galaxies and all those other things are reality, that what we're being told and shown is actuality, then yes, that could be part of what most people would consider the universe, and that certainly is or would be external to us. But the thing I think that really strikes home to me about the universe not being separate is I can't imagine that all of creation could exist without each and every one of us and whatever other beings there are out there, all the animals and plants, and everything is just part of this equation. It would be like looking at your body and thinking that you could have a body without all those individual cells, having its own experience, but contributing to the whole of the body. And I believe that's what the quote unquote universe is like, is that I'm going to personify it, that the universe, it does need all of us to be here having these experiences so that it can be a universe. Now, the universe is a no pun intended, a universal word. Universe meaning that it is the external force that has a bird's eye view of us in our lives and everybody else's lives, so that sort of like you standing on a soccer field. I play soccer, so this makes sense to me. And I am interacting with 100 and 120 yards of space, in one direction, and then there's width and all that. In general, my concentration and my focus and my limitation playing the game is on that 120 yards. Someone that's in a blimp over the top of that soccer field can see a whole lot more happening that I can't pick up necessarily, because I am seeing it from the ground view in this example. And I think that's kind of like what the universe is, or whatever you consider to be the guiding force that's outside of you. Now, I don't think there's very many people out there that would argue that there is not some type of external force. You can call it whatever you like. There's a lot of names for it. There's God, there's angels, there's spirit animals, there's, you name it. There's lots of different names, and I think you get the point. For this talk, in relation to some of the stuff that I was quoting, the universe is what we're going to use. And so most people would probably accept that term and kind of understand it. And I do get a lot of questions from clients about the universe and what I think it is speaking about for them, and or how do they learn to listen to it? How do they learn to interact with it? How do they learn to use it for the best and highest good? Now, to be honest, it becomes very individualized in my experience. Depends on the client, the person, and the situation. But in general, us asking about our goals, or claiming or asking or putting out intentions to this universe is got to be unique to us. And it's not like we are asking or demanding or insisting that something outside of us is there to help us and is going to help us, as long as we have the positive thoughts and all of that. I think it's more than that. I think it's that we are part of the equation, and we really do already have our intentions and our goals there. The secret, I think, to that is that you have to become in alignment with those goals and those ideas and those dreams. We should all have dreams. You should all have a direction. Because if we're just here existing, oh my gosh, that's, to me, that's not really life. We all hope that that's not what we're here for, somebody else's entertainment. But to be here as a spirit and human body, to have experiences or an experience or some reason to be here. But I think the difference in this equation is that we have this free will. We have the ability to choose, to accept, to do, to act or not act. There's a lot of things that we have power over that we can help influence. But let me tell you that the universe is not necessarily there to just bend to our desires and bend to our intentions or our prayers or whatever you classify that as, or however you would say that. But it's something that helps us, I think, bring out the best in us. And it is there as well to help us realize the gifts and the ideas and the dreams that we have, and assist us in guiding us, not directly, because that's not the idea for coming here in this life, in this existence. Because if we knew all the answers, we knew why we were here, we knew how to get from A to Z, then it really wouldn't be an experience now, would it? I mean, it might, but it wouldn't be the same. I mean, if you were going to design a human being and teach them to become more than just living here, somebody that's existing, I mean, you would want to put them through trials. I mean, when you train animals, when you train a dog, you train a horse, you put them through struggles, you put them through trials, until they finally become conditioned and learn the process of what it is you're trying to teach them. And I think that's what happens with the universe. I believe that once you become solidly in line with your goals and your desires, you put out those intentions and you work towards that, then I think that what happens then is everything starts to come in alignment. Everything starts to line up. And it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, sometimes it does, don't get me wrong. But generally, the universe wants to know how serious you are, wants to know how committed you are, wants to know how much you're willing to sacrifice to have these goals and have these ideas. And it'll be there for you. It's that silent partner that's just waiting there for you to decide, to move, to act. Because non-action is also going to get you somewhere. It's usually not where you would like to be in the end. Action and belief and alignment, they all kind of have to go together. And you can't just sit on your couch and wish for the best and things are going to happen. You know, I think it's just something we have to step into. What I have found, though, is that people that have miserable lives, for example, I mean, you look at them and everything just goes wrong. And nothing works right. They're always going through trials and things, and bad things are happening to them. And they just can't seem to get anywhere. The bills are piling up. You know, the kids are bad. All these things are happening. To be honest, they are also manifesting. Now, most of the time, we look at manifesting as something that's good. But I can tell you, you can think your way and act your way into a sickness. You can think your way and act your way into debt. You can think and act your way into anything that is bad as well as it is for good. If the effort is the same to be in a bad way or have a bad life or not a very favorable life, then why aren't we putting the same amount of energy into having a good life, or what we consider to be a good life? I want to classify that because, you know, the whole idea of treating your neighbor like you want to be treated, in my mind, is a little bit vague because, you know, there are some people out there that would love to be treated bad. So that equation wouldn't always work. Yeah, I know there's a baseline to that, but you get my point. So everybody has their idea of what is good. Everybody has their idea of what is bad. And it's really up to us to decide that. What it is that we enjoy, what it is that we want out of this life. Because as I say in many videos and podcasts, is that this life that we have of 75-ish years is very short. And when you get to be my age, you know, it becomes even shorter and you're thinking, man, you know, wow, I hope that as I look back at my life that I've done the things I wanted to and have stepped into my greatness as much as possible. And we all get to that point, you know, but we don't want to ever be on our deathbed and have regrets is what, you know, because that's really what happens when people are on their deathbed. They don't think about other things. It's like, man, I should have done that. I should have done this. I should have married that person. I should have acted on this. You know, instead, you know, why aren't we living a full life and dying empty, you know, so that we actually have the total experience. And don't get me wrong, you know, going all out all the time is not always the answer either, because trying to force a door open that you think is in your best and highest good, that's great. I mean, you can get anything you want and you're likely to get that, you know, and hard work is important, but at the same time, it is not all of the equation. And we have to spend so much time at work. You know, a third of our life is sleeping, and the other third is, at least a third is working, and it's getting higher. That part of the equation is getting higher the more we move forward in our times, our modern times. There seems to be very little time for ourselves and very little time for us to be mindful about what it is that we want and what we're seeking. And your idea of that could be very simple, it could be very illustrious. That doesn't matter. It only matters what you want. And you have to decide that, and you have to act on it. You know, the old saying, you know, crapping in one hand and wishing in the other, you know, what do you get? You get crap. You know, you have to have the solid crystal idea of what it is you're looking for. Hold on to that. Persistency and consistency is important, but it's not everything. And you then have to put the work in. You have to step forward. Even if you look at, I'm going to use the biblical scriptures here for a second because I think there's some good value in that. Even Jesus never just walked up and healed people. You know, Jesus always asked them what they wanted. What is it they were seeking? Maybe they didn't want to see again if they were blind. Maybe they were hungry. Maybe they wanted something else. But the other thing I think he was trying to do and trying to give us a message about, or at least the author who was writing it wanted to get the idea across, is that we have to decide what we want. We have to have that commitment. And then the assistance will come along. You know, it's not going to be the other way around. You know, the assistance doesn't just show up and then all of a sudden we have the idea. Well, occasionally it does. I'm talking about commonalities and normalities, and you know, there are those one-offs and those freak chances, I guess you'd say. But the really cool thing is that once we have found a way to align ourselves with our goals and our ideas and our dreams and where we want to go, we have that idea and we're working towards it, then all of a sudden, I say all of a sudden because it's the way it usually happens, all of a sudden then all these coincidences or synchronicities start to show up. The right people come in our lives. The right job shows up. The right opportunity shows up. Hard work, when it meets opportunity, is the grand idea, right? Better to be prepared when an opportunity shows up than otherwise. I can tell you right now that every second of our day, we are being shown things, given things, breadcrumbs from the other side. We are being given messages every second of our day. Absolutely. Even if we're sleeping, when we're sleeping, we are having dreams, which are also messages. I've talked a lot about that. And so the other secret and part of that is once we're in this alignment, we're in this medium that is part of the whole, and all the answers will start to come through that. We have to learn and trust when we start seeing things, getting things, and not just taking these coincidences or these accidental meetings as just that we're actually analyzing that and researching that and actually looking at that and begin to realize that we are actually being guided, we are being shown, we're giving messages, signs. And now our idea of getting signs, I mean, I've done it, you know, just show me a sign, you know, all I need is a sign. And the problem with that is we're looking for this big, illustrious, glorious, massive billboard sign, you know, in a way that just absolutely leaves no doubt that we're doing the right thing or we're asking the right question. You get my point, we're going in the right direction. That doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does have those big, glorious things happen and it's like really wonderful. But most of the time it's these little bitty things, sequence of numbers you get in a dream, this hunch. Oh my gosh, the hunch, right? The just a gut feeling that something isn't right or that you need to make a choice. You don't know why, you don't know how you know it. But those are all messages. You have to learn to trust that. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, then he's like, you know, I was having trouble sleeping and, you know, and I thought I should come into work early and, you know, get some stuff done. But this just, something told me I needed to not do that I needed to just hang out at the house and do other things. I forget what it was. And just wait on the normal time to show up at work. And he said, you know, it was funny because there was an auto and pedestrian accident right around near his apartment that he might have been involved in if he had actually left when he thought he was going to or needed to. And so there's always those stories. I mean, you can go research that and talk to people all over the world, and they will tell you the same thing. You know, if I had not listened to that little inner voice, that little hunch, that gut feeling, you know, I might be dead right now, or I might be in jail, or I might be broke, or, you know, I might have married the wrong person, or, you know, there's a lot of ways that the universe can speak to us. I'm trying to put this into words, and it's a little difficult to do. I see it all the time. But the other thing is that we get so busy with our day. We get so busy with our day that we don't take the time to notice the things that are actually being presented to us. And that would be called more, the term I would use actually would be mindfulness. That you're actually paying attention to the eaches and the little things that are happening around you every day, and listening in and tuning into the universe, to the things that are being broadcast to us from the other side. And if we're not careful, we're going to spend our whole life missing the entire message. It happens to all of us. I fortunately have taken the time many years ago to do a lot of self-development, become a lot better at paying attention. Do I miss things? Oh, I'm sure I do. The thing is that we have to do some deliberate listening, some deliberate paying attention in our day so that we can actually capture these things. It could be something somebody says. It could be some random message that somebody sends you. It could be almost anything. And if we take the time to actually put together the message, it may be a one-off message. I mean, a solid message that gives you everything you need, or it might just be part of the message. You got to wait on the next message. And if you categorize it, you write it down, and you think about it, keep that as a record, then you can really begin to realize that you are being spoken to in volumes and volumes of information are coming our way. I mean, just a little science fact, you probably heard me say this too, is that our mind is being bombarded with 11 million bits of information per second. But the thing is that our conscious mind cannot handle more than 40 bits of information per second. So our conscious mind is very much trying to keep us from being overwhelmed. Entirety of the 11 million bits of information outside of the 40 goes straight to the subconscious. So we are getting messages every second of the day in very, very large volumes. What is the secret to capturing that? Some people say it's meditation. Some people say it's mindfulness. A lot of terms, a lot of ways. I mean, you could center yourself and quiet your conscious mind to allow the actual downloading of these messages, or allowing the messages to come through in a lot of ways. You could sit cross-legged on a mountaintop smoking a pipe if you like. You can lay on the couch, some quiet music. You could run, you could walk, you could exercise, you could garden, even while you're driving sometimes. There's a lot of things that will take our quote-unquote mind off of the world and allow the messages to come through. And remember, the other part of that equation is that we need to learn to trust the information that's coming through. Analyze it, look at it, and see what it is that we're being told. Now, not everything you receive will be literal. Religious texts after religious texts after religious texts, for example, they have all these ideas of symbology and not always direct messages. I mean, dreams are that way. I mean, sometimes dreams are very literal and you get messages, you're talking to people, you're told something very specific. But most of the time it's pictures and ideas and moving, like watching a movie. And you have to break that down. You have to figure out what it is that is being shown to you. And the internet is a wonderful place to start, and you just got to figure out what the language is, what the symbology is, and what it is that you are being told. Get a sequence of numbers like I was speaking of earlier. You go and research that. Oh my gosh, you'd be amazed what might resonate with you and what that synchronicity is going to bring you. I mean, I've had a sequence of numbers I had in the dream, I think it was 8-9 years ago. Long time ago. And it continues to show up in my life. The first time was a year later, and then another 7 years later, and then it recently showed up again. It all has some kind of meaning, so it's all linked to the overall message, or the message of life, I would guess. Maybe not a singular message. But the other night I had another sequence of numbers pop up. So I can't wait. I really can't wait to see what that brings me. What it is that those 4 numbers actually are going to represent, what it's going to bring me in alignment with, what it's going to teach me, what it's going to show me. And so I think you get my point. So manifestation is not just, this simple little process all the time. Okay, well, let me back up. It can be. It can be very quick, and it can be done, ad hoc, and with great faith, you can actually manifest some things very, very quickly. Like the other night, I was walking around on the camp that I'm stationed at. I put my ID in my pocket, my military ID. Somewhere along the way, when I took my phone out of my pocket, it came out of the pocket, and I got back to my truck and no ID, right? And so, I did the normal things. I got on my truck, and then I followed the path around where I went and realized how far I really had gone, but I couldn't find it. And so what I finally decided to do, at least this is what I was told to do in my way of listening to the universe, is that I simply needed to recall that ID in the way that I would like to see it being recalled. So I got back in my truck, took, 30 seconds, a minute, and I visualized someone showing up at the building where I work and handing me my ID in the morning, and I let it go. And I was at work, and I didn't think much about it. I did, me of a little faith, as much as I say, I'm good at these things. We all have our moments of doubt. And I was having somebody make me another ID. And at the same time they were handing me that new ID, somebody walked into my workspace and handed me my ID, the one I'd lost. So there's a lot of lessons in that. I mean, we could talk about that forever, right? But the thing is that if you can put your ideas out there, your intentions, order what you'd like with the belief, the same belief you have as if you were going to go on the internet, go to Amazon, order something, and you absolutely know when you click that button and you ask for that thing, it is going to show up at your house. Now, will it show up exactly when they say it will? Not necessarily, but it is going to show up. That's the kind of belief I'm talking about. And it sounds easy, but it's not always that easy. As you can see from my story, it's very easy to have doubt, even though the outcome of the manifestation I put out came true. I think you get my point. Manifestation is a very personal thing. It is something that is really cool to experiment with. I can give you story after story after story of how I've manifested things in my life on purpose, and it can be done. It takes work, though. There's instances like I just gave you where it could happen really quickly. But sometimes the universe wants to make sure you really, really committed to what it is that you are asking for. And so occasionally, and most of the time actually, we have to work at it a little longer than just overnight. That was kind of cool that happened like that. A lot of times we have to stay the path and keep the goals in front of us and really work towards that. And the universe will meet us halfway. And that's the way it works, in my opinion. So I think you get where I'm going here, right? That we can decide in this life that we have to have the things we want. The only real limitation is us. And the only real limitation is our imagination. Even Einstein said that, the imagination is the preview to life's coming attractions. So we have the ability to visualize what we want, and that's where it starts. And then putting out the intention, working towards that intention, and developing a solid belief that what you've ordered is going to show up. And it sounds simple, I get it. Experiment with it, try it out. It is really cool. It is an amazing tool, this mind we have, this brain we have, this consciousness. There's a lot of ways to describe it. But we have the ability to think our way into things, good and bad. And so let's all strive to bring good things into our life, or the things we consider to be good and the things that we want to have. Let's not look at it as a selfish thing, because if we are part of the equation of the universe, the more good we do for ourselves, the better we are to the whole of the universe. Imagine if everybody thought that they had to think of everybody else first and nobody was excelling and nobody was growing. The universe might simply die out. And, it needs us and we need it. And so we have to do our part. We have to do our part in excelling and growing and becoming more than we could ever imagine in order to keep the universe moving and growing as well. So I will digress here and I will end this. And I would really love to hear from you guys. I offer this a lot. I don't seem to get a lot of people taking me up on it, but I would really like to hear from you guys. I have a contact page on my website at lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. Go on that contact page and you can figure out how to reach me. And I really want to understand this manifestation even better than I feel like I do. Because we're always learning, we're always growing, and I'd love to compare ideas, hear your stories. We can help each other, we can help the world, we can help our families. Leaning on each other and learning from each other is a really great way to grow and expand as a person, as a population, as a universe. I look forward to hearing from you guys. You will hear from me again most assuredly. Stay strong and live your life.